Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David and I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation Magazine. This is what it used to look like, more digital now, but I just grabbed this one. Let's see. This was July 2021. Had someone from Lachlan Caffey, VP of JLL. This is a project that we did up in Nashville. It was a reuse project. Another great looking issue. This one was 140 pages, and let's see what I was doing in the back here. Oh, we got family going on. Got a picture of my father and my uncle. We were in upholstery manufacturing way back when, and this is them when after my grandfather passed away, they took over the business and made it into the largestly held private custom upholstery. It's called Corson Furniture Industries. And anyway, I did my retail training at Levitt's, Scotch guarded, put more of those brass little sofa tables together where, loss leaders in the back of the store. I unloaded trucks. I did all sorts of stuff, but it's always good to hold a magazine. The last issue we printed was August of 2021, and I've been digital since. Just had 3.8 million people hit my website last month. I'll probably go over 4 million people just consuming content. And it's just been an amazing ride from face-to-face and print to digital, and haven't looked back. Don't miss the post office, don't miss the printer, don't miss any of that. Although we still set it up like in high res, so we do have a print on demand service, so people that we feature and stuff, they can get extra copies to give to their parents or friends and stuff like that for bragging rights. But hope everybody had a great weekend. Mother's Day, it was beautiful weather. For me, it was a lacrosse weekend. I got my sticks behind me. I was a hockey lacrosse player in University of Denver. We beat Michigan in the first round, and now there's 8 teams left, and the quarterfinals start. We've got to play Syracuse next Saturday. Got to win 4 games to host the trophy, and huge lacrosse game weekend coming up. The 8 teams left, they're all perennial powerhouses, and if you win, you go to Philadelphia to play in the semifinals and the finals. And if you've never seen lacrosse, this is the weekend you should watch some games, because these are the best teams that are in the country. They're all very talented, very close. A couple of plays decide the game, and all bets are off on what can happen. But go Pios! I had our hockey team. We won the national championship. Our women's lacrosse team and our men's are in the national championship, and hopefully they'll both bring down the trophies home for Magnus Arena to put in the trophy case, and it would be the trifecta to end the year off. So go Pios out there. Come on, boys, ladies, let's get it done. Let's bring those trophies home. So with that said, I've got a nice gentleman. His company is called A.O. Smith. His name is David Chisum, and he's the general manager of the parts division. And this is their 150th anniversary of being in business. So, David, say hello to our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk land.
How's it going, listeners? Appreciate you having me on, David.
And where are you out of today?
Based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Yep.
All right, so you're just down 24 from me. It's about a 3 hour ride from me from Atlanta. I'm up here in North Georgia, so I
Yeah.
go across 20 all the way to hit 75, Chattanooga, Nashville, boom, I'm there. So nice to know that I've got a neighbor across the border there, in Tennessee.
Easy drive. Yep.
Yeah. So the way this is going to work is we're going to do it in 3 parts. You're going to tell me your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you ended up at A.O. Smith. Then we'll talk about lessons learned that we've all gone through over the last 3 to 4 years of the roller coaster that we've all been on. Even though we're kind of out of the tunnel, there's some potholes and hindrances, et cetera, that we're all going through. And then you'll leave one positive thought or phrase in your contact info, and then we'll close out the episode. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
No, I appreciate it. So, yeah, I've been at A.O. Smith myself. This is my 20th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, the organization's celebrating 150th. I'm celebrating my own 20th. And it's been an interesting ride myself. It's a wonderful company to work for. I wish I could tell you it was by intent or by design that I landed here. But probably like a lot of other people's backstory, it was just a series of individual decisions that kind of landed you there over time. I kind of joke, I've been in the plumbing industry for 26 years, and I have my wife to thank for that. It's not because her family was in plumbing or she's a plumber or contractor. It was we met in college. So I actually grew up in northern Mississippi. Played baseball growing up, was big into karate growing up, and ended up going to Union University, as a small little liberal arts college in Jackson, Tennessee. And
Sure.
I went there to play baseball. That was my drive, was to go play baseball. As it turned out, I only played 1 year there. It was a lot more than what one would think to commit to. I was on academic scholarship, but I was trying to keep my grades up, trying to play baseball. I was pledging a fraternity. It was just too much. So I ended up just focusing on my grades. And long story short, I met my wife. I was a senior. She was a sophomore. Last semester of my last year, we had like 2 weeks left in school, and we started dating. And I graduated and was looking for my first job out of college. And I had a bunch of job offers all over the U.S. I had one job offer that kept me local, and it was working for a plumbing manufacturing organization. It was a Masco division, making tubs and showers, but it kept me local. So I thought there was something to this girl that I might want to continue dating her. And turns out we've been married, like next month is 23 years we've been married.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations.
but it literally was that first step, getting out of college, making that first decision to join a plumbing manufacturing company. And I've literally been in plumbing manufacturing ever since. And how I ended up landing at A.O. Smith, it was a cold call from a recruiter. Wasn't looking for a new job, wasn't looking to make a change. But my wife's family was from Nashville, and we were right about the time we were looking to add kids to the mix, and getting
Mhm.
close to family made a lot of sense at that point. So we made the move. It was a big move to pick up everything and move to Nashville. But man, it's been a wonderful ride. Nashville's a different city from when I moved here 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's just like Atlanta. I've been here since '92, and it's completely different. I saw everything get built before the Olympics, and
Yep.
the whole South has just changed. It.
Unbelievable growth. You see, we joke that the crane is the bird of Nashville, because there's cranes everywhere when you go downtown Nashville. Just construction going on everywhere downtown Nashville.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, I was going down to downtown Atlanta for I think it was a soccer game, and as you go through 75, 85, it's the main artery through downtown. And right when we got there, I told my wife, I go, let's count how many cranes are up, because
Yeah.
that's just a nice barometer of what's going
Hmm.
on. And I must have counted 25.
Oh
And
yeah.
big ones, overhead, but anyway, it's just a good barometer of what's going on. And uh, you can't build a building in a week. Some of these buildings they take 18 months to 2 years, depending on
Yep.
how big it is. And uh it you know it's let me ask you a question. When you were in school, besides your degree in baseball, what was your degree? What did you study?
So I went to school for international business, emphasis in Spanish, with international business, and a minor in marketing. And so my first job was actually in marketing, and I've been doing marketing ever since, until this recent assignment. So the GM of the parts division, literally, I'm like 6 weeks onto the job. Prior to that, I was VP of marketing for A.O. Smith for the water heater division. So I was doing marketing for 20 years with A.O. Smith, and just now made this change.
And I have to ask you, what fraternity did you pledge?
I was ATO.
ATO, okay. Yeah, I
Mhm.
was an SAE. We had the ATOs right
Okay.
next to us. So
SAE was right next to us.
hey, that's the way it goes. They had this dome, and we used to have some water balloon wars across the parking lot. Hit the
Things
dome,
never
they break some
change.
windows. But the ATOs, they were good guys. Got a little chippy on the flag football field during rec and whatever, but you know.
Exactly the same. Exactly the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you go. It's everybody's like, oh yeah, SA, sleep and eat. We understand you guys. So um uh you know, looking at when I have people on here, when I saw the press release that your PR agency had sent to me, 150 years in business is just an amazing feat. My family's been in steel recycling since 1888. And
Man.
yeah, so I come from a construction background. My grandfather was a combat engineer in World War II underneath Patton. He rebuilt all of the bridges that the Allies had bombed after, during the war and after the war. And I have all these old Super 8 movies of all the Jeeps and tanks, and we were in sustainability and recycling before it was even a word. And
Yeah, yeah.
but as a grandson, we grew up outside of Philadelphia, and all the grandsons, when you got your driver's license at 16, you had to go work in the scrapyard. So I grew up there playing on the cranes and everything else. And, I worked in the scrapyard. I shoveled asbestos. I laid railroad tracks. I was in demolition. I did all sorts of stuff. And uh, looking back, all of those things that I learned, and right now, and listen, I'm in construction now. I build a magazine. I used to do it with
Mhm.
paper, ink, and postage. Now I do it with digital and plugins and software. But I'm still a builder, and I build something every month, and I'm proud of it. And, I built that, and but I look back at all the things I did, athletics, and all the different jobs that I had over the years, and it's kind of molded me who I am. But I'm
Yeah.
really a builder. That's what I am. Right now, I'm a content builder, digitally. That's, what I've become. And all the things that you did, whether it was on, the baseball field, what position did you play?
Left field, center field. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, anything you did, I love talking to athletes because athletes understand winning and losing. They understand practice makes perfection. You will play as you practice. And nowadays, you got tape and, reconnaissance and all this stuff
Mhm.
going on where a couple plays can change. It always comes down to a couple plays. But I like talking to athletes that have gone from the athletic field and made that transformation to the business world because playing sports, look, you get bruised, you get hurt, whatever, but it gives you thick skin. So when you do go out into the business world,
Mhm.
it gives you, just that extra added, mindset that, you're going to be able to handle it. And, with being in with, hot water heaters, et cetera, water is an amazing thing. My son went through tech school. First, he was going to work on cars. And I said, look, if you don't have your own shop, you're not going to make money. And I said, I'll work on motorcycles. And I go, we got to move someplace warmer. They're going to drive motorcycles all year. Down here in the South, I mean, it gets hot here in the summer. It gets very hot. So I ride during the cooler seasons, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Then we took a tour of this aviation plant, and he's been, got he went to aviation mechanic school, FAA. He has his A&P. He's been at Boeing for 3 years. He just put his notice in, and he's coming back to Atlanta to work at a smaller shop. And but I told him, I said, look, become a plumber, okay? Because everybody uses water. You
Oh
take
yeah.
showers with it, you drink it, you need it to cook with, And he's like, well, what about the plumber's jokes? I go, listen, just take the plumber jokes with you. It's not a big deal. You can write your
Mhm.
ticket, and we'll find some guy that doesn't have any kids to give his thing. Become an apprentice. You can get paid, and you can learn, and you can write your ticket. And but he went the aviation route. But I'm all about people that work with their hands and
Mhm.
you know, plumbing, it's an art, it probably hasn't changed, 150 years. I can't imagine what the original uh, water heater looked like, but pretty
Mhm.
much not much really has changed. Maybe there's some more electronic components or circuitry and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, but still it's the same kind of, design and the,
Mhm.
the way it functions, correct?
It is. One of the things that got us into the plumbing industry, so A.O. Smith obviously has a rich history going back 150 years, been in a range of other products. I know you were talking about the war efforts. People don't know this, but A.O. Smith's factories were turned over into the war effort. We made over 4.5 million bomb casings because our business at the time was large diameter pipe. We made most of the natural oil or natural gas and oil distribution lines across the U.S. were pipes that A.O. Smith made. But during the war efforts, we turned our factories into landing gear, propellers, bomb casings, a lot of the munitions that were needed to support the war effort. So a lot of really interesting twists and turns along the way. But one of the major turning points for us was in 1936, we patented the glass lining process. So how to take steel and ceramic coat that steel, we patented that process. It originally was for the beer industry, believe it or not, because we were based in Milwaukee. And as you know, this is post-prohibition. Beer distribution was gaining some momentum, needed larger storage vessels. Well, as you got the larger storage vessels made out of steel, they needed to figure out a way to protect that steel tank from the corrosive properties and to prevent flavor exchange. Well, guess what? If you can glass line it, then you're protecting that steel tank and you're protecting the product. Well, we took that same technology and said one of the biggest problems that the U.S. faces is the ability to have mass distribution of water heating, and you couldn't do it because it was all specialty product, high cost, expensive niche product at the time. We took that glass lining patent and applied it to a water heater in the 1930s. And that glass lining process still exists, to your point, still exists to this day. When you walk out in one of our factories and you see how we protect that steel tank, we're ceramic coating the inside of that tank. And it's sure, we iterate and we improve over the years, but the fundamental process of glass lining a tank, it's been the same since the 1930s.
Yeah, it's like HVAC. I mean, not much has changed. You got the compressor in there and some coils and some wire and the steel encasing outside, but not much has changed. It's just the repair bill keeps going up. But other than that, it's maintenance. It's like anything else. If you maintain your equipment, it's going to last that much
It'll last.
longer. Oh
Yep.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, as I always, I always ask people, after they get, go through their history and so forth. The reason why I actually picked you to be on there, I had a water heater person on there, but number two, that you've been around for 150 years, and I was reading, the bio about, you had something to do with Henry Ford too, correct?
We do. That's kind of a neat part of our history, very much in automotive. So, like if you read the history books and you read about mass automation and the manufacturing industrial revolution, you read a lot about Henry Ford. You don't read as much about A.O. Smith, but we were actually locked at the hip. We've got images in our archives that go back to seeing A.O. Smith and Henry Ford sitting in a car together. As the story goes, originally we were a blacksmithing shop, in the 1800s. And so C.J. Smith and his son A.O., kind of their core capability was bending and welding of metal. That became part of who A.O. Smith was. And then it was, okay, what are the opportunities? What are the needs in the market? And how do we do it more cost effectively? How do we bring automation? How do we drive cost out? And how do we increase the durability and the longevity of the product that we're bringing to market? So started out as baby carriage component parts. Then it was bicycle component parts. A.O. Smith was the largest manufacturer of bicycle frames, bicycle component parts across the world. And then at the turn of the century, it transitioned into automobile frames. So A.O. Smith and Henry Ford partnered up literally at the turn of the century. And as the story goes, Henry put an offer of 10,000 automobile frames in front of A.O. And we had no idea how we were going to make that many frames at that scale. But he didn't say, let me get back to you. He said, yes.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll get her done.
We'll do it. And then he went back to the team and said, we got to figure out how to make this many frames at this scale. And literally put a plant together that was an engineering marvel, highly automated, very different for that time of the time period, but highly automated facility that was just churning out automobile frames, and did that for many years, made hundreds of millions of automobile frames for manufacturers across the globe. But what's unique about A.O. Smith is we've been in a range of different businesses over the years, but we've never been afraid to reinvent ourselves either. So we've been in grain storage facilities. I don't know if you're driving across any rural area, if you look out and you see a big blue silo with a white top on it. look at the top of that silo and you will see Harvest Store, and then you'll see AOS stamped under that. That's glass lined inside and out storage, grain storage facility. We made thousands upon thousands of grain storage facilities across the globe. They're made so well that you don't need to replace them. So we exited that business because we made all the silos that we could make. But we continue to just innovate and change and reinvent who we are as an organization. So we've been in motors. A.O. Smith Motors made millions upon millions of motors that go in exhaust hoods, pumps, pool pumps, things of that sort. No longer in that business. So we just continue to innovate and change who we are. Now, A.O. Smith is a water technology company. It's water heating and water treatment. So water filtration, softening, filtration, and heating. That's pretty much who we are now. We've centered around that kind of core competency.
You know, people, like I told my son, you just don't realize how much water you use. You know, your body's 95% water, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, without it, you know, you can go X amount of days without water, but it's so, I'm from Philly. I say water. Sorry about that, but it's my Philadelphia twang. But,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, water is so important. You know, you just think about everything that you do, you touch it every day in some
Mm-hmm.
sort of aspect. And, it's just a really cool business to see what you have water and then all the different things that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, equipment and so forth. So when I got the bio, and listen, everybody out there, that's how he got on here. The PR person sent me a release. I saw it and I'm like, cool, 150 years. Oh, I want to talk to this gentleman. So I'm sure you've got some awesome pictures. Does A.O. Smith kind of have like a history museum or any of their facilities or a main facility where you can go in and see the timeline or anything like that?
We do. Corporate office has a neat little timeline. We've got one down in our operations in just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, too. Kind of walks you through the milestones and the neat history along the way. We actually in Ashland City, just outside of Nashville, we have the world's first sports car. It's in the lobby. It's called the A.O. Smith Flyer. One of the earlier innovations was it was kind of a flywheel or motor wheel, the fifth wheel that was attached to what we would describe these days as like a little go-kart. But at the turn of the century, this was kind of an innovative development. And so we developed the motor, we developed this little ski that it was attached to. You got a little brake, you got a little horn with what looks like bicycle wheels on the front. Deemed the world's first sports car. It's sitting in our lobby too, so you can actually take a look at that one if you ever get up in our neck of the woods. But again, we were in automotive, we were in a bunch of different businesses, rich history. It's fun to kind of walk your way through that history and to see those neat little milestones.
Oh, listen, I'm a history buff, so I always like looking at I mean, I still have my erector set that I have way back when, you know. So, um, well, let's talk about the last 3 or 4 years. You know, March 2020 comes around, cranes all over the place, economy's just humming right along, and all of a sudden, boom, everybody gets hit by a 2x4. It's going to be a couple of weeks. Here we are, 3 to 4 years later, and like I said, we're kind of out of the tunnel, but you know, a little couple of speed bumps, potholes, whatever, call them what you want. But talk about how your company, obviously with a rich history of 150 years, how you weathered the storm to keep things, your momentum going, and you know, I'm sure
Yeah.
our listeners, you know, because everybody did it differently. It really depended on what state you're in. Like, you know, Tennessee and Georgia, we're down in the South. So it really depended on what state you were doing. You know, like, I always use plumbing as an example, because they always had, you couldn't be close to people, number one, during during the beginning. And if you were doing like a highway project and was outside, you were fine. But if you were doing an electrical or a renovation of a
Mhm.
bathroom in a certain state that didn't have that had all the regulations that maybe the state next door didn't, it really went project to project. So I was just curious to how you weathered that storm and made it
Yeah.
out.
Well, the average lifespan of a publicly traded company is 20 years, right? We're celebrating 150th, so we got to be doing something right to make it
Yeah.
150th. I always point back to our values, is that has been consistent. It never changes. We're going to conduct ourselves ethically. We're going to take care of our people. We're going to be a good place to work, and we're going to take care of the communities in which we operate. And that's consistent. It's been the way as long as I've been there, and even, years and years before that. So I would say resilience is kind of in our DNA, to continue to adapt, to adjust, to get a read of the situation, and to find a way to navigate through it. Yeah, the last handful of years have been just going through it. To me, I kept going back to kind of our purpose. At the very beginning, our CEO got on all hands Zoom and said, listen, folks, we're not making potato chips. We're not making some meaningless product. We're on the front lines of fighting the fight. We're bringing product that delivers fresh water, hot water, hospitals, really essential parts of this process. We're bringing products that change people's lives, that enhance people's lives, that save people's lives. What we're doing matters. So staying centered on that, when the days were tough, when the nights were long, when you were burning the candle at both ends, knowing what you were doing mattered, and knowing what you were doing was making a difference, was what kept us coming back in. I would say the biggest learning I had through all of it was staying flexible and learning how to adapt, learning how to be resilient through disruption and changing times, and just knowing that change is going to be constant. And how do you come in every day knowing that you're probably going to get thrown a curveball, and how do you adjust to it? How do you adapt to it? Back to my baseball reference.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's what we did. Every day came in, tried to do good work, take care of our employees, take care of our customers, and ultimately bring products to market that were making a difference, and just stayed focused on that goal. And the team did a great job at that. We had all supply chain shortages. If you don't get steel that shows up a certain day, or you don't get gas valves or your TMP valves, it takes every single component part to make a water heater. And if one component doesn't show up any given day, you can't make a water heater. So we constantly had to be able to adapt and adjust. So when I talk about the learnings of the supply chain, the interconnected nature of the supply chain, how so many things have to work well for things to actually allow us to make our finished product. It just gave me much more appreciation for people that are in that kind of supply chain field of work. The demand planning, the supply chain planning gave me a ton. I already respected that group, but it just gave me a ton more respect for what they do day in and day out. And we came out on the flip side very healthy as an organization. And I think that's because we were so centrally focused on just making it through and doing good work and providing the products that our customers needed.
Did you see an uptick in your sales because most people were at home and then they decided, hey, we need a new water heater, or we need to redo the deck? Or did you see that happen as well with AO?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there was two things going on. One, absolutely, everybody was home, everybody was working from home. You had kind of maximum occupancy in the house, right? So you were putting a lot of stress on the water heater, probably more so than what you normally would. So you had kind of heavier load on water heating, and you had people that were spending a lot of their discretionary money. You weren't going to restaurants, you weren't traveling, you weren't doing all this other expense. So people redirected those dollars towards home improvement and doing improvements in their home. So we absolutely saw an uptick in people. We call it proactive replacement, replacing your water heater before your current one fails. So a lot of times it was, homeowners have a run to fail mentality, and they don't replace a water heater until their previous one wasn't working. We saw more proactive replacement through COVID, where people were like, hey, it might be nice to upgrade my water heater and get a new technology or more energy efficient technology into my home. And so people were putting in heat pump water heaters and tankless water heaters and more energy efficient water heaters, or replacing their water heater before their previous one failed. So we absolutely saw that kind of on the front end of COVID. I like to joke. I think everybody remembers the epic run on toilet paper at the beginning. Couldn't wrap my head around it. Like, everybody was buying hordes of toilet paper, and all of a sudden we had a shortage of toilet paper.
Yeah.
that to me reinforced kind of supply chains and production planning. Like if everything works according to plan, there's enough toilet paper for everybody. But if you introduce a little bit of disruption and fear-based buying and people start to hoard, then that creates all kind of other issues. And you had shortages and you had all kind of challenges. Well, we had a little bit of that in the water heating game too, because people obviously don't want to do without toilet paper. Well, they also don't want to do without water heating. So we had a little bit of inventory bloat in the channel through throughout the COVID period or throughout the transitionary period, just because people were like, well, I don't want to be without a water heater. If I have a cold shower, I don't want to have to make a phone call and say, well, I'll get a water heater, but it'll take 2 days, 3 days. I want to be able to say, yes, I have one on hand now. So there was a little bit of inventory bloat that we saw. So now you add proactive replacement and you add inventory bloat on top of that. Going into and through those time periods, we had big time. We were making as many water heaters as we could make out of our facilities. It was literally one of the fastest and most challenging times for our facilities, just navigating through that. And there was a little bit of, I'll call it rebound in the 22 timeframe where we had stability, things were getting semi back to normal, and then there was a correction in inventory. So we saw, again, some of that, we talk about the ripple effect. We saw a little bit of that ripple effect. But I would say, 23, 24, it's kind of steady state, a lot more predictable than what it was in the past. And the interesting thing about the water heater business is it's pretty predictable. You have 120 million households across the US. Every one of them has a water heater in the US. When a water heater fails, guess what? There's going to be a replacement water heater that happens. So you've got the replacement business, which is the majority of our business. And then you have new construction, which is 15 to 20% of the business. So between those two, you can pretty much predict what the year is going to look like in a given year. So the disruption years that we had taught us a lot about understanding our supply chain, understanding demand planning, understanding the production plan, understanding how do we bring stability to the business. And so we learned a lot. Now that we're on the flip side of that, we've learned a lot, and it's helped us drive efficiencies in our operations too. We've learned a lot. We do a lot of things differently than we did before. How we train people. Before it was bring everybody into a classroom, sit down and we'll train you. Now we've invested in digital, we've invested in live streaming, we've invested in, heck, QR codes. Nobody knew, or few people knew what QR codes were prior. Now everybody knows what a QR code is. So every one of our water heaters has a QR code on it where you can scan it. You can get
Yeah, I'll give you the instructions, and hopefully it's in
right.
Spanish sometimes. And hey, this is how you need to install this. You don't have to
That's
call
right.
back at that. It's all right here.
Everything you
Go to my
need is right.
YouTube video. It'll tell you everything.
That's right. So we link to troubleshooting videos, we link to installation manuals, we link to a parts list. If you need to know what element it is in the water heater, scan the QR code. It'll tell you what the element is that you need to replace. So we learned a lot of how to do things more efficiently, how to do things more streamlined, and those lessons are carrying with us throughout. It's definitely was a learning time and a time to adjust.
It's amazing. A lot of my guests that I have on over the last 3 to 4 years, they said that at least the companies that were smart, that were able to kind of turn on a dime. I don't like using pivot. I've heard it too many times, but they were able to have some of their best years. Even with some of the hindrances that were there, that they learned, how to become more efficient. They learn more about their business, about themselves. They also learn that there's more to life than work, and that life work balance. And it's just, especially people that are in construction are like, God, I could have bitten off more off that apple, but I didn't have PMs or superintendents to
Yeah. Yeah.
that was the shortage, or I would have had better years. And so, turning a negative to a positive in the right way, keeping your positive mindset is what, again, I think got a lot of companies through there that are standing today. And any cool new products in the hot water thing in the industry coming out, or
Yeah, there's really On our end, there's kind of two primary focuses for us all around this kind of notion of energy efficiency, new technology and energy efficiency. So a lot of interest and a lot of momentum in the heat pump water heater space. So heat pumps aren't new, and heat pumps and water heating aren't necessarily new, but they're starting to gain significant traction now. So think about a standard electric water heater. You got your elements in the side and your 45 kW, and you're heating the water through those elements. The benefit to a traditional electric water heater is upfront cost is going to be lower. The trade-off for that is your annual cost of operation is going to be higher. It's, to heat with those electric elements. So ballpark, it's $500, $550 annual cost of operation to run that water heater. A heat pump water heater, you're going to pay more upfront, so higher upfront cost, but the annual cost of operation is like $100, $115 annual cost of operation for that, because you're integrating a heat pump into a traditional electric water heater. So instead of creating the energy with those electric elements, we're borrowing energy from around the room. So think of it in a garage or a basement where you can actually, you have a compressor and a coil that takes refrigerant and transitions that energy from the room and puts it into the tank. So we're actually borrowing energy from the room and putting it into the water heater. The byproduct is cooler, dehumidified air, but you get really cheap hot water. I like to say it's one of the best kept secrets in the water heater game is the heat pump water heater. That's what I would put into my home. If I'm even, so another major trend is this push towards electrification, decarbonization or electrification. And a lot of these utilities and energy advocacy groups are really putting incentive dollars towards trying to drive adoption of heat pump water heating. So there's a lot of momentum and a lot of interest in that newer technology, but it's not just for the sake of new technology. It really has a benefit to the end user. You're going to save on your annual cost of operation, and it has benefit to the contractor because they're providing a better, more efficient, lower cost of operation product for their customer. So we got that going on in a lot of the US. We also launched a really novel tankless water heater, gas tankless water heater. And a little bit about our history. So A.O. Smith in the last 10 years has really kind of centralized our focus around water heating and water treating. That's kind of our two main pillars of focus. So it's all water technology related. So we really have a lot of expertise within our company around water quality, water treatment, the things that you need to do for water. So the neat intersection around water treatment and water heating come to play in this tankless product that we launched just here recently. It's called the Adapt series, and I'll tell you why here in a second. But little known fact about tankless. So a tank type water heater, you got a tank and you got a burner underneath, and you're transferring BTUs to the tank that way. A tankless water heater, you've got a big burner underneath, and you've got basically a coiled heat exchanger that you're transitioning as the water passes through, you're heating it up on demand. Well, one of the lesser known facts about tankless is that if you don't do annual maintenance on it, scale, most of the US, a lot of the US has hard water. Scale buildup, it'll precipitate out of the water when you heat it, and it'll adhere to those tubes. Well, if you don't do annual maintenance on a tankless water heater, over time, those tubes will clog up with scale buildup. And then at some point, it's like cholesterol in your...
Yeah, I was going to say, just like your cholesterol in your pipes in your body.
That's right. It clogs up, and at some point, the water heater will stop working because it's got scale buildup in the heat exchanger. So a lot of these tankless products require annual maintenance in order for you to have your warranty on the product. So we designed this product from the ground up. It's A.O. Smith engineered, A.O. Smith manufactured with integrated scale prevention technology into it. So we designed the heat exchanger in such a way, it's a two-pass coil basically. So we designed the heat exchanger for the scale to not adhere, so it precipitates out and goes through the line. And we integrated scale prevention technology into the product. So as the water comes in, we're basically preventing that scale from falling out of precipitation and adhering to the tank or to the tubes. So basically, we've taken our water treatment knowledge, our water heating knowledge, and solved the number one problem for tankless, which was the requirement to do annual maintenance. So that now we say we recommend annual maintenance for any water heater, but we know most people don't. Most people think about it and they're like, it just never hits the radar. Anytime you got to do something once a year, it's just hard to remember to do those kind of things. So we acknowledged that and said, well, let's just design a product and develop a product that doesn't need annual maintenance. You install it, and then it's just going to work. And we've installed these in the hardest of hard water scenarios. We got a test lab in Roswell, New Mexico.
Yeah.
Talk about hard water.
Yeah.
And we test this thing and test it and run, millions of gallons of water through these things to try to understand how they're going to work. And we're highly confident in this design. So we're really promoting that technology to markets that are looking for tankless water heating solutions, new construction, other markets that are looking for tankless solutions. We've got one that you can install and not have to worry about any kind of annual maintenance because we've already done the homework on the front end. So I would say between those two kind of integrated scale protection tankless and heat pump technologies, those really are the two big things that are going on in our industry that are kind of marching towards the new regulation environment. So we have a lot of regulatory changes that are coming for water heating in the next, call it, handful of years. 2029, a big change where every residential water heater will get kind of a bump in minimum efficiency requirements. So our intent is to put products out in advance of that and to train the trade, to educate the trade, how to install them, how to service them, how to sell them, what's different about these technologies so that our channel partners are prepared in advance of regulatory changes coming. So that's where a lot of our energy and focus is on the training side, on the education side, making sure that we're being the subject matter experts and being the industry leaders and making sure that we're walking along with our channel partners with that.
I walk the AHR show every year, and it was in Atlanta last year. I don't think I walked this year because I didn't want to go to Chicago in the middle of January. But I'm building my empty nester house. I'm just waiting for the county to send me my final permits, and I can put my sign up and I can start clearing some ground. But last year when I walked the show, she's like, "Look, we need a water heater. Let's look at tankless. We need this and we need that." So I had my whole list, and now I'm getting it in there, and we've hired our plumber and got his affidavit and all that stuff. And we were having this discussion, and I'm like, "Hey, babe, we're gonna go tankless, or we're gonna get the traditional one, or the heat pump, whatever." So we've been kind of looking at it, and so your conversation is very timely. Listen, if anybody's out there in commercial construction coffee talk, and whether you're building, you're looking for a water heater for your restaurant or your big box or your home that you're building, or whatever. If someone wanted to reach out to you, David, and bounce some questions off you or talk about the rich history that A.O. Smith had, or how would they contact you?
It's actually our email addresses are really easy to remember. So it's first initial D, last name CHISOLM at hotwater.com.
Yeah.
Really easy. D Chisum at hotwater.com. And be glad to talk about our history. Glad to give you insight or input around a new construction or any kind of specification. A.O. Smith really is an expert in the commercial water heating space. So we sell a ton of residential water heaters year in and year out. We are subject matter experts in the commercial water heating space. Our biggest innovation came in the late 90s, where we brought a energy efficient, high efficiency commercial gas water heater. It's called the Cyclone family. It's kind of the industry standard for commercial water heating, commercial high efficiency water heating. Very iconic look. It's got a yellow topper, cheese head top. We might be a Milwaukee based company. So yeah, cheese head top on the top of it. Very iconic look to it. You'll see them in a lot of commercial applications. You'll see them in restaurants. You'll see them in hotels. You'll see them everywhere. But we really take pride in the fact that we have a industry leading position, and we have a lot of knowledge and expertise in the commercial water heating space. So to your customers and to your listeners that are in that commercial space, if you want to learn more about commercial water heating, new technologies in that space, we're launching continually new iterations on our commercial product lineup too. So high efficiency is also the way to go. We've got commercial heat pumps. Same thing. You talk about heat pumps work in applications where you can borrow heat from the surrounding area, take that heat and put it into the water, and then cool the surrounding area. So think about a commercial kitchen. commercial kitchen, you can take heat out of that kitchen, use that heat to generate hot water, and then cool the kitchen from that water heater. So commercial water heating with heat pumps, we have products for that, and high efficiency gas. It's a great technology for any kind of applications using high volumes of hot water. If you do it more efficiently, you're going to see payback on the utility bill.
Yeah. So listen, if you're out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk and you've got a project, maybe new construction, renovation, needing a water heater for your own home or whatever you're doing, just like myself, I'm doing my empty nester house and we're acting as the contractor. Reach out to David. He's been around forever. He understands all this stuff. And I always tell people, listen, if you're gonna do, if you need a plumber, you don't hire an electrician. Talk to a specialist that does this stuff every day, and they can help you pick the right type of equipment that is basically maintenance free. I'm always going to tell you to do maintenance. It's just like, tires in your car.
Yeah,
You keep it the air infiltrating, you rotate them, they're just going to last that much longer. So,
absolutely.
it,
Same thing for our product. We want to design for the worst and plan for the best. And absolutely doing the preventative maintenance, water heaters will last a long time.
So if anybody wants to reach me, I'm at David C at ccr-mag.com. And once again, listen, I get press releases all the time and I read them. So I saw this one and I talked to Heather at the AG, say, hey, let's it's 150-year anniversary. Let's get them on the podcast. So listen, it's like playing the lottery. I know I always tell you this, but if you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. If you don't send me something, I can't look at it. Very tough to get into the magazine. However, we post stuff all day long. Anniversaries, new product announcements, personnel announcements, charity golf tournaments. Don't judge that book by its cover. Send it to us. Our TAT, our turnaround time for posting stuff on the web, 24, 48 hours. We send you the URL. It's win-win. It's good for your SEO, which is your search engine optimization. That's how Google finds your content up on the web. It's a win-win. So send it to us. We look at everything. And one of the things listen, before the roller coaster started in 2020, March of 2020, I used to just put construction stuff. Now I put all sorts of stuff up there, how to buy the right insurance, what's the best cell phone. I even have hair extensions, for people that want to, guys or girls that want to wear hair extensions. I don't know, but it's there. And so the bulk of it's still construction, but I do have a lot of, I've diversified, and there's all sorts of stuff for all sorts of people. But we're a niche site, and so once again, send me something, and we'll take a look at it. So as we finish up here, David, if there was one positive thought or phrase that you'd want to leave with our listeners as we go into halfway through Q2 and the remainder of 2024, what would it be?
No, that's a great question. I'll just tell you about my personal reflection is the last handful of years, and just some of the things I've learned along the way. We talked about purpose and being aligned to your purpose at work and feeling like you're making a difference in the work that you do. To me, that can translate to whether, how you are as a dad or as a husband, and how you show up at work. But kind of my mantra is just leave things better than you found them. That's it. Every day, show up and try to leave things better than you found them. And some days you chip away at it, and some days maybe you don't make as much forward progress. But if every day you show up and try to leave things a little bit better than you found them, collectively we'll make a difference here. And that's what I try to hold myself accountable to, and that's what the team environment we try to create here is, just to focus on continuous improvement, getting better, and not resting on your laurels. I think that holds true in business and just in life in general. So I'll leave it with that one.
Oh, I totally love that. I'm all about self-improvement, and listen, some days you're going to improve a little, but the sum is always bigger than the whole. This year, I run about 5 or 6 miles a day. And in my first month at the end of January, I was like, oh, I should just do a little video. So now I do like a little video, and I talk about my day and, what my positive thought is. And, I just was running yesterday, and of course, DU won this weekend. And I just said, look, if you don't have a positive mindset, mindset's everything these days, and there's no room for negativity. I got no time for negative people. To get rid of them, they're just dead weight. And wake up being a champ, play as a champ, finish as a champ, and go to bed as a champ. And you'll wake up the next day so much more psyched. And if you repeat that consistently, you will see a change in your attitude. People are going to see a change in you. You'll see a change in your work, your personal life, and you can apply that to anything. And sports, business, personal. I mean, that's what life is. But
That's great.
So anyway, I created that when I was running a show. I was like, oh yeah, be a champ. I was thinking
Be a
about
champ.
yeah, be a champ. Just be a
I love
champ.
it.
Go through your day that day, and if you need to give yourself a boom shakalaka, get yourself psyched, do that too.
There you
So
go.
a couple of things before we finish up, and thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much. It's been very entertaining and informative as well. Number one, if you're on the construction site, we want you to be safe. We want you to get home, be able to have dinner with your spouse, your husband, your wife, your partner, your kids, any pets, turtle, dogs, cats, whatever. We want you to be safe, be able to go do it the next day. Number two, stay hydrated. Okay, the heat's coming in. The humidity hasn't hit here in the south, but it's coming in. Probably the middle of June. God flicks the switch, and boom, it's hot. You got to stay hydrated. The athlete in me, when you get dehydrated, you get headaches, you make mistakes, you get hurt. Same thing on the construction site. Put some electrolytes in that water, drink it all day, stay hydrated, and you will sleep so much better. And once again, we want you to go back and be able to, get on the site. And last but not least, hit the like button. We want the algorithms out there so people can find out about the 150-year anniversary and H.O. Smith and all the cool stuff that they've done over those 150 years to get where they are. And hopefully, listen, 200's right around the corner. It's going to be 200-year anniversary here soon. So with that said, David, pleasure me. If I come up to Nashville, I'm definitely going to look you up. I'd love to be able to come and take a tour of the facility. I like looking at
Absolutely.
plants and stuff. So if I get an invite, I'm going to take you up on that.
We would love to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. And any last words before you sign off from Nashville?
Appreciate the opportunity to tell the story. I really appreciate the ability to share with a broader audience. I feel like A.O. Smith is a hidden gem in the construction industry. If you're in the industry, you know about us, but outside the industry, we're kind of a hidden gem. So being able to kind of spread the word and get the message out there to the construction industry and beyond, and tell people how cool of a company we are and what makes us unique and different, really appreciate it. It's been great. Thanks for the time.
All right. Well, David's going to sign off for Nashville. I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, right below the Beaver Dam on Lake Lanier. It's got about 600 miles of coastline. My lake lot's on the west side there, up in coming right off of exit 16 off 400, and I'll be living there over the next 10 to 12 months. Basically, just keeping an eye on things. So with that said, listen, everybody, got Memorial Day coming up in a couple of weekends. You just had Mother's Day. Enjoy the rest of the week. Remember, the bottom line is, wake up, make your bed, put a positive attitude, smile, get dressed for success, go through your day. And then before you know, it's going to be TGIF. And then you can look back at your week and you can assess, hey, maybe I should have done this better. Maybe I should have, just like David said, if you can improve every day, you want to be better than you were yesterday, and you want to be better than you were the day before. You always want to be moving forward. Maybe not in big chunks, but it all adds up at the end of the year, and you always want to be improving, learning, and so forth. So that comment really hit home to me, to my heart. So with that said, everybody have a great rest of the week, and we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. David, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Look forward to meeting you in person, and we'll see you all out there. Cheers, everybody.